Greetings, fellow Earthlings. Dave Smith coming to you with another episode of And Another Thing with Dave. This episode, we have another conversation with Tony, and we get into a number of topics. Hope you enjoy it. Please stay tuned and feel free to leave messages and give me feedback.
Hey, Cheese.
Hello, Tony.
Hey, Weird Cheese.
What's going on, buddy?
Oh, nothing. Just getting some of those ugly returns from Democratic primary. Biden keeps winning, and
Wow.
looks like he was already 150 delegates ahead, and it just looks like he's going to be the Democratic nominee. We can protest all we want, but most people are just going to see us as sore losers, sour grapes. Once we get, people formally on the record saying somebody cheated. Evidence to back it up.
Yeah, and it seems like that never comes out until 6 months or a year after the fact,
Yeah.
right?
Or in the next History Channel thing, and a decade later.
Right. Then you're like, oh, Hillary is a corrupt, total power whore. Conspired with the DNC. We now know through Wikileaks stole the primary from Bernie, but we didn't have that information at our fingertips then. I mean, I guess, I don't know, maybe it was, but anyway, yep. It'll be swept under the rug, and then what do you do? So I don't know. What do you really think Biden's winning these, or do you think we're being swindled?
I just can't say swindled until, like I said, Dave, I need formally people in front of congressional committees or Senate committees or in court. I need that kind of stuff, because it becomes, I heard this, or you said that, or, it's this conspiracy or that conspiracy. And I mean, let's face it, if Donald Trump loses the election, Dave, okay, what are they going to say? How do you think they're going to handle that? You think they're just going to, hey, we fought the good fight, we lost, didn't work out, the people have spoken? You think that's how they're going to say that?
Hell
You think
no.
our Fred Ed on Facebook is going to say that? Or other friends that we talk to? Do you think they're going to be okay with it? No, they're not. So
I told you my thoughts on that before, and I'm not convinced that Trump will leave the White House if he loses.
I've heard that Bill Maher was making a lot out of that, Dave. But my feeling of this is, once the new president is sworn in, right? He always takes the oath. You win the election, then it's a couple of months, right? And then he's sworn in and he's officially the president. Once he is, he can just go have military remove the guy, because he's no longer the president. The other guy's just got sworn in. He can't keep somebody else from being sworn in.
Well,
So
you
that's
just said
not
the key. You said the key thing. It would have to happen before the new president is sworn in, right?
But how is he going to keep somebody from being sworn in? I think even hardcore Republicans will.
Marshal Law.
Yeah, well, really, I just don't think that he'll be able to pull that off. You don't. Will a lot of people agree with him? Of course, because Trump's
Tony.
always being cheated, Dave. He's always being cheated.
Look what's happening right now. He could declare martial law right now. In the name of public safety.
I think the vast majority of people, though, Dave, would see through that. I really do.
Right, but what could we do?
I have faith in the American people.
We would see
I don't even
through
think
it.
a lot of hardcore Republicans would go for that.
We would see through it. We do about it.
Well, Dave, I mean, I think these last several months, the whole Ukrainian thing has proven that Trump's above the law. I mean, he can just do whatever he wants. You know? And that's just a sad state of affairs.
really sad. Like it's like the mafia's running the fucking government. It's really
Well, I mean, we always hear rule of law and no man is above the law, and it's, for the people, by the people. And, Trump has just really flipped that whole board over, Dave. He's thrown a lot of those rules right out the window. And I think he set a very dangerous precedent as well. I mean, what if are Republicans going to be okay with this if a Democratic president gets in and starts doing this kind of stuff? Really? That's going to be okay with you, Republicans? Seriously?
No, Republicans have balls. They'll fucking fight. They'll be in the streets. They'll fight. Democrats roll over. Why are Democrats so fucking do nothing, roll over all the time? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I just don't know where to go with that.
Right, like the Alabama boys, those like that's like a hardcore alt-right group, right? Hate group, ties to the KKK, this and that. But they're like they have a bunch of praise. They even got praise in the media. And then you look at Antifa, right? And what is Antifa? Let's break that down. Anti-fascist.
Fascist. Yeah.
Antifa, anti-fascist. So who likes a fascist? Nobody.
Fascist.
Except
other fascists.
Right. Except yeah, who likes the king? The king. Great to be king. So exactly. So but we've been programmed to think, oh, Antifa, those fucking punks in the streets. Wait, no, they're anti-fascists. And if we have anti-fascists in our streets to the point where it's making the news, holy fuck, we got a problem with fascists, right?
Mm-hmm.
But nobody talks about that. Right? You look at the kid wearing the mask and the hoodie and the fucking whatever, and oh, look at that, oh shit. And then they prey on that. They get people to side with the billionaire once again, Tony. They prey on that like, well, if I owned a Gap store, I wouldn't want people breaking the windows of my Gap store. Well, you don't own a fucking Gap store. And those people breaking the windows of that Gap store, those are undercover police dressed up to look like Antifa. That was outed too in the whole Battle for Seattle. You saw a documentary?
I didn't.
Oh my God. I highly recommend it. The Battle for Seattle. It's great. It's, the World Trade Organization protest in, I believe it was 98 or 99 that basically formed the foundation, I want to say, of the Occupy movement. But what was outed in this documentary is that there were clearly undercover police running around breaking windows, and it was hilarious. They were all dressed the same with like black boots, khaki pants, like a blue derby jacket, and a black like stocking hat. Like they all had the same uniform on. And they're big, huge fucking husky dudes, like look like police size, 6 foot something. Not like young punk ass kids. Man, it was, yeah. You're like, oh fuck, look at that. Wow.
What are you gonna do? I don't have any answers for this stuff.
Well, what I like to do, Tony, you're a fan of history, and I like to look back at history because I don't know, you don't know. We can talk till we're blue in the face. We can try to predict, and predict. What's that? Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, right? So,
and they all stink.
I don't care about that. I want facts, and I want to try to find the facts and dig for the facts. So where I go is to history. And our government has a fucking history of oppressing the working class, the progressive movement, all minorities. So there's a history of that. And and in one of the last episodes that I did solo for the podcast was about the FBI COINTELPRO operation.
Mm-hmm.
And what that is? COINTELPRO. It's counterintelligence program, right? And so what the FBI was spying on is left-leaning professors at universities, musicians, authors. It was like the McCarthy era with the Red Scare all over again. Oh, you might be communist, right? So they would investigate anybody who had a left leaning. And and basically the FBI came out and said, we will not allow a progressive to take political office in this country.
Well, it's unfortunate that people see it that way, because when we did have progressives, both Roosevelts and Teddy was a Republican actually, but when we did have that, working people did better.
Right, but those people hate them.
But we have a situation here, Dave, where, like you said, we've gotten a lot of propaganda on one side, convincing people that some of those things, that would be good for them, are not good for them. I mean, I told you about the lady yesterday that, what you really should be afraid of is, government-run healthcare. And I responded to her, what I'm afraid of is not being able to get healthcare.
Yeah, I don't care who runs my healthcare program. And that's what kills me is like people are attached to their healthcare provider. No, they're not. They just want to be able to go to a doctor.
I mean, can most people name who their doctor is? Don't they just go to the hospital where they have coverage, or their nearest hospital they don't have coverage, and get medical care?
I have an assigned doctor, Kate Feibush.
Okay.
She's cool. She's this cool, lesbian woman, and her.
But do you matter if it's not her? You just want to get help. What if she's on vacation?
I wouldn't give a fuck. The last time I went there, they're like, "Oh, Kate's not in. Do you mind if?" I'm like, "No, I don't give a shit. I just want to see a doctor."
Yeah, exactly. I don't know this whole thing. Like, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. And they kept telling Obama what a liar he was. Okay, well, he then stopped saying it.
Like, we have a relationship with our doctor, Tony. Are you kidding me?
I guess. I certainly never have.
And it's like when I was a realtor, Tony, they trained us to think that same way of like, it's a relationship business. You want to have a relationship. You want them to invite you to their kid's birthday party. Like, who's going to invite a realtor to their kid's birthday party? Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, I get the whole like friendly thing, the friendship. I trust you,
right?
I get that, but overall, Dave, it's like I don't really give a crap. It's like I go to the grocery store because it's closest and maybe they have the better sales. That's why I go. It's not like it's got to be Safeway. What? What do you mean? If it doesn't have to be Safeway if it's 10 miles away. I'm going to Raley's if Raley's is across the street.
I don't understand this fucking allegiance, Tony. And
yeah, I don't either.
It's across our society, right? Like, it's brand allegiance. I did a podcast on YouTube about that, about brand allegiance. And I was and riddle me this one. I'm at a gas station at a Valero, right? And we'll just say it was $3.55 a gallon. Then right across the street is a Chevron, and it's $3.60 a gallon.
Yeah, I'm going to the one that's cheaper.
What? Like, really? And one of them's busy, one's not.
Well, you can throw convenience in there with price. That's why, like, if it's too far away, that's not convenient, right? That's inconvenient. I'm not going there.
Well, when you go to somewhere like Marin and you go to a Chevron, you get like little gloves so you don't get the gas smell on your hand, right? There's always paper in the fucking windshield washing thing. The windshield washing thing is always clean. It always looks blue, like, oh, they just filled it, right?
Okay.
It's awesome.
A better product.
You go
They
here,
have a better product.
you go here in Santa Rosa.
Okay.
The water in the windshield washing thing is like black. You're like,
Yeah.
my windows don't need to be cleaned that bad. You go to
I
grab.
want to clean my dirty water.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's probably gonna be worse. You go to like grab a piece of paper towel because you like spilled a little gasoline. You're like, oh fuck, a paper towel. Ew, gross! I just touched something. And then there's no paper towel to wipe your hand that you just touched something with. And then fuck, you just can't get out of there quick enough.
No, all of those factor in, Dave. No doubt about it.
But
basically, what we're talking about is we're not allied with any one company for gasoline.
But I'm talking about the same company. This is Chevron, both places.
Really?
Yeah. One in Santa Rosa, one in Mill Valley. In Mill Valley, you get little hand mitts. In Mill Valley, your hands don't smell like gasoline.
More of an upscale area, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. One of the highest per capita in the world. I mean, Marin County is like the fifth richest county in the world.
Wow.
And getting worse. And Southern Marin is the epicenter of like the, problem. Let's just call it that. The concentration of wealth, Tony, should I say, right? Because, let's back up a minute. I got nothing against you if you got money. No problem. I want to make some money, right? No problem. What I got a problem with is, people that have inherited wealth that don't pay taxes like you and I do, because their wealth is inherited and invested and ours is earned. So that's bullshit. Like, you know me, I'm just about leveling the playing field. Right?
Oh, no, this is something you and I talk about all the time. It's
just the same rules for everybody. Right. So,
yeah.
So if we're going to have an income tax of blah, blah, blah %, well, then if you're just, Richie rich and you make your money trading stocks, that should be taxed at the same freaking percentage is all I'm saying. Every trade
that works for me.
Taxed. Hedge funds should be taxed, right? Like it's been flipped on its head to the point where the middle class and lower class pay the majority of the taxes. And it's because
you're talking like a progressive, Dave, and there just aren't enough apparently of us out there. I mean, when you look at the polls, when they talk about these types of things, it seems like the vast majority of people are for it, but when they go to vote, that I don't know, when you go in to pull that lever or fill in the circle for a particular candidate, that all of a sudden disappears.
Well, and I think it might literally disappear, Tony. I think it might literally disappear, as in there was, I can't remember the details in this story, but where the county was, what state, what county. But in investigating the votes, they found 44 flash drives with votes on them that hadn't been counted.
Well, we know there is voter suppression going on. That has actually been proven. I think we were talking earlier about it, and you said it was a couple of places in New York, and I think it was Louisiana and Florida and Wisconsin and Kansas. I mean, Chris Kobach, very famous for being a part of voter suppression. But, like I said, Dave, even though that is there and it's been formally proven, right, in courts of law, judges handing down judgment, you have to stop doing this because it's illegal, and yet we still don't have, it seems like most people don't know or don't care.
Well, and one thing that kills me is because I think if you're going to talk freedom and liberty, the two things to me are the right to vote and the sanctity of the vote, knowing your vote counts, and then the right to do whatever the hell you want with your own body, like, say, reproduction rights or, like, marijuana. Like, really, these are victimless crimes. If you're free, then you can do whatever the hell you want as long as you don't hurt another person, right?
Well, yeah, but
so we're making laws where we can set people up to be arrested that then makes money for the police force, which we don't vote on. You can elect the chief or whatever, but then it's just, you see where I'm going with this. There's not enough transparency. There's not enough community involvement. There's too much trust in authority. And why do we have any trust in authority after it was outed that our government lied to get us into these wars that we're still frickin' in?
But it comes down to, Dave, what people believe, what policies they believe in, what party they're affiliated with. Because you bring out one thing, Dave, but hey, freedom of choice, and people, on the other side say, well, no, because now you're taking another life. And then you say, hey, what about my freedom to own guns? And then the people on the other side go, well, guns kill people. You get shot by someone with a gun.
So these are qualifying freedoms, which is why more freedom is good. Yes, go ahead and have a gun. Go ahead and have an abortion. Why? Because you're not hurting fucking anybody. But we need to have huge background checks and all that kind of shit for anybody that does have a gun.
But Dave, doesn't it always just come down to people's personal opinion? Because you get down to personal opinion, Dave, and then the thing doesn't matter anymore. For instance, we have a lot of people that when it comes to the Constitution, Dave, they're all about the Constitution when it comes to the Second Amendment. But when it comes to the separation of powers, as we've seen lately, it doesn't matter, right?
God, glory.
It doesn't matter. There you go. Like, oh, well, Trump can have a trial in the Senate without witnesses and without documents, right? His attorney general can just come out and say, no, he's been fully exonerated. And the guy says, well, no, there's 10 instances of obstruction of justice here. But the attorney general said, well, he's been fully exonerated.
By you.
There you go. And so I love to think about the Constitution, Dave, and we have these laws, and this is what sets us apart from a lot of other countries, right? And yet, when they're not being followed by a person that people like, then it's okay, right? A lot of these people love Trump no matter what he does. In fact, Dave, they feel like he's a badass because of it. Did you see that? He just stuck it in the eyes of those Democrats. He doesn't have to come up with this information. He doesn't have to. What is it called, Dave? He ignored congressional subpoenas. They just ignored them.
Right, and
That's called.
And that's a good thing just because he's sticking it to Democrats? So the fact that he's subverting the rule of law, that doesn't supersede your party preference?
And that's what I'm talking about. Because all these things that come out,
lunacy.
We talk about this, and it just really comes down to, well, are you a Trump supporter or not? For myself, Dave, now, I get pushback from this from some of my Republican friends, But if Obama had behaved like that, Dave, I wouldn't defend him on that. I wouldn't defend him on that, and I wouldn't vote to reelect him after things like that.
You mentioned the O word. You mentioned the O word, so you know how I feel about Obama. So I just want to make it clear in case whoever's listening right now hasn't heard our other episodes. But I am a left-leaning person. The only reason I'm registered as Democrat is because that's how I need to vote for Bernie, which is ridiculous. So we need to end the two-party thing. But I can't say enough against Obama. I voted for him the first time thinking, I was hesitant. I was like, ooh, this could be a huge Trojan horse. And it totally fucking was. They fed us the black dude like, here's your bro. Here's one of you, a man of the people, constitutional lawyer, right? But what was he? He turned out to be, bought and paid for, did the bidding of the 1% in Wall Street. As soon as he got out of office, he went and made speeches for Wall Street. A half-hour speech, he netted $400,000. So that you can't tell me that's not payback money.
You know how I feel about that type of stuff. I think those things should be investigated.
Exactly. He got the frickin' Nobel Peace Prize. He should be called the drone bomber in chief. He instigated.
He could be a war criminal.
Yeah. He actually received and self-approved a kill list every day of up to 21 targets daily. He'd be like, yep, check, yep, kill all those fuckers, yeah, with drones. And in all of those, you're taking out innocence. There's collateral damage. I hate that term because it makes it so impersonal.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Just registers it as a statistic.
Oh, I fucking hate that because what that means is if you're my target, Tony, and I take out your beloved wife, that's collateral damage. No, that's an innocent person lost their fucking life. You need to call it what it is or you don't feel it, right? Collateral damage. That couldn't be colder. And in one of these attacks, a whole wedding party was killed.
And it happens over and over. Yeah, there's another thing though, Dave, because if he's done so many of these things and he just continued these wars. He said he was going to end them. He didn't. Let me ask you this though. Why don't Republicans like him more? I mean, why you still hate him, but he did that.
I get it if they're racist, but other than that, if you're a Republican, you should love Obama because he's basically George Bush Jr. continued. He kept a bunch of the same. He continued all the wars, expanded them. He didn't stop the torture program, extraordinary rendition. As a matter of fact,
he deported a bunch of people.
As a matter of fact, he made it okay to assassinate a U.S. citizen. Boom. With no fucking.
Why do Republicans hate him so much?
I guess
he lowered the deficit.
I guess because
it was going good while he was his term in office. They always talk about those things as being so important, and yet he gave them all those things. He gave them, like you said, Dave. He gave them the wars.
Gave it to them. Bailed out the banks.
Yeah. And the rich got immensely richer.
Propped up Wall Street. The rich got richer. Poor got poorer.
Main Street was doing pretty good. I mean, you look at the overall economic numbers, and nobody was hurting. It wasn't tough to get a job.
Occupied.
Gas prices crazy, and yet Republicans absolutely vilify the guy. I don't get it. How did that happen? I mean, look, how many times did they tell you, Dave, no matter all these different things that are going on with Trump, and even some Republicans will go, oh, God, how do I defend him on this? But then they go, well, look, the economy's doing good. Well, Obama gave you a good economy, hardly perfect, but it's never, it's never perfect, right? But yet he's the guy that's like, he's the villain all the time. He's this guy that, absolute piece of crap. And I'm so glad we don't have him anymore. And
I heard
some people even have things totally sucked when he was president. Like, what?
I heard it was incremental moderatism or whatever. Nothing happened during Obama except the same old, and it just kept creeping on, creeping on. The war machine kept creeping on, creeping on.
Right.
Kept creeping on, creeping on.
But where he inherited, what he inherited to what he bequeathed, Dave.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the overall thing. Like, he got elected for radical change, and he did jack shit.
And we didn't get radical change.
He did.
That's true.
He did jack shit. He had the Senate and the Congress for how long?
Like 2 years till the midterm.
Fucking years. So he could have rammed through universal health care. He could have rammed it through, except Pelosi. None of them wanted it. None of those sellouts wanted it.
Yeah, we ended up with a watered down version.
And you know what's fucked up, Tony? Congress and the Senate, they get universal health care. They get free health care for their entire family, not only for their term of office, but for life. And we pay for it.
Well, see, that just gets me back into the whole, how did we get convinced that this was a bad thing? How did we get convinced that?
And where the fuck are the pitchforks? You can't even buy a pitchfork at Ace Hardware anymore, and don't tell me that's an accident.
Yeah, well, I know we go over and over this, Dave, but it just comes back to the same thing. We're gonna have Trump against Biden in 2020.
Yeah,
that's what's gonna happen.
And Trump is gonna win by a landslide.
Well, I would like to, see how some of these things play out. I'm wondering if the Obama Trump voter, the person that voted for Obama and also voted for Trump, apparently there are quite a few of those. Call them swing voters, and they could have a lot to say in determining who's going to be in the White House the next 4 years. Look at the way Trump is handled. Look at the federal government's response to this crisis, Dave, which is a horrendous crisis, certainly worse than the economic crisis of 2007, 2008, right? Because this is, a medical crisis. And it is
all of a sudden
morphs into an economic crisis, right?
It's swung right into an economic crisis. I mean, this is huge.
The other one wasn't a medical thing, right? And this is huge. And come on, can anybody honestly say his response has been good?
It's been horrible.
He's been truthful.
Bernie did a fucking press release tonight. Did you see it?
I did not.
It was brilliant. That was true leadership. He's done 2 of them so far. It's basically like a State of the Union address or whatever. It's very presidential, and he's just giving you the lowdown on the latest information and delivering it really well. Oh, it's brilliant. Very, that's what you want from a leader. He's grabbing
what was the substance?
Relaying the current situation, and urging people not to freak out, but giving a bunch of factoids on the current, giving an update.
Well, we know that the president has not been good with telling the truth throughout his presidency, and even before that, even while he was, candidate Trump. And during this crisis, Dave, a number of times he has said things that were immediately contradicted by people in his administration other elected officials and um, people at the CDC and experts and researchers, and it's just like he's telling us something. Like he said to Sean Hannity, I saw this on a clip, and he was on talking to Sean Hannity on Fox News or Sean's radio show, and he said if you're sick, you can still go to work. Yeah, he
Yeah.
said it.
Get your
It's like,
coworkers sick.
no, you shouldn't go to work.
No, go
If
ahead.
you're-
Get your coworkers sick, Tony.
This is just incredible, and this is the guy that some people still want for the next 4 years. I mean, this is a crisis, Dave. That like when have we seen this kind of crisis in our lifetime?
No.
This magnitude? Clearly, we haven't, and they're okay with this guy acting the way he's done during this period. That was leadership.
It's abominable. Tony.
Now,
It's abominable.
I'm all for it. Let's not make it political now. Let's not start laying blame and stuff.
Riddle me
There'll be
this,
plenty
Tony.
of time. But hold on one second. I think what we should be doing is concentrating on what are we doing today? What do we do tomorrow? What do we do next week?
Clearly. Exactly. Protocol. What is the protocol? Right? Because that's all anybody wants to, that was the problem with the Gulf War shit. Oh, it's warning level yellow, warning level orange. Well, okay, well, what does that mean? What do I do? So you just stress out. I'm like, there's nothing to do, but it's not good.
Warning level, like, okay, so I know when the next terrorist attack is going to hit. What am I supposed to do? Not take a subway train today?
Right.
Is that what I'm supposed to do? Don't get on a bus? I mean, I don't know what does that mean?
Is it going to be a plane, a train? Exactly. Like what? Give me a little fucking hint. Exactly.
Do I call my employer and say I can't come in today because we're a level orange?
Right.
So I can't come in today.
At what level do I get paid to not go to work? Right.
All right.
Exactly. But no, riddle me this, if you will, my friend. How bad do you think it can get? And don't you think we've set ourselves up to be a petri dish for this shit with our homeless epidemic?
I'm sorry?
So my two questions.
That last word I didn't get.
2-point question. How bad do you think it can get? And don't you think we've set ourselves up for this with the homeless epidemic?
Wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Obviously, it could get a lot worse because we haven't had these testing kits, Dave, so we don't really know how many people are infected and have been infected and how many more people they are infecting. And as far as the homeless situation goes, yeah, David, you talk about people who are walking around with this disease are in situations where their immune systems are going to be suppressed and they're huddled together in some of these homeless camps. They have no health care, so they could have been carriers for how long?
Right.
God, those people that are out, take some of those places in Los Angeles where the homeless problem is just unbelievably bad, worst in the country. I mean, how many people could they have infected?
Tony, I'm thinking right here, 2 blocks away from me, 7-Eleven that's frequented by a ton of homeless because it's right next to the Joe Rodota Trail, which made the national news.
Dave?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. I thought you had disappeared there for a second.
No, that was just a Harley going by.
Yeah, I mean that's there's a good reason that maybe we should have universal health care and we should have more money for public assistance, right? Because now people would look at those individuals and just either not care or hey, well, that they made their own decisions, whatever, right? We've heard that before. But now if we put it in the context, Dave, of
You're going to get me
their
sick.
their well-being could adversely affect our well-being.
You're going to get me
So
sick.
now we're tied in together, right? There's
You're
a
going to get me.
tie-in here.
And if we don't fucking
There
do
it
that,
is.
then there's going to be hatred and a less, ooh, right? And if we don't do something about it, then imagine, Tony, you're going to get me sick. I hate you. We need to eliminate you.
Now I'm afraid of you.
And now I want to eliminate you, right?
And not only that, to the people that you hate and that you fear, right? You obviously feel animosity toward that person. And these are people who have no power at all. They have
Zero.
no real means to defend themselves. It's not like they live in a gated community. It's not like you have to break into a house to get to them.
There's no
You know,
group. There's
right?
no group of developers lobbying Congress or city council on their behalf.
Right.
Right.
You have somebody blaming them, you know, a lot of people are going to follow that. You know, again, Dave, it's the punch down thing, right?
Right. Punching down.
It's always the people that are most vulnerable that are screwing everything up. Does always seem like, right? It's the welfare mom. It's the immigrant. You know, that's the people we got to worry about. And now you're saying the homeless, and well, there you go. And there's no question about it that, I mean, if you, as far as being the sickest group in the country, I would say they're probably the sickest group. People that don't have a home are probably they're going to be less healthy than people that do. That seems, pretty obvious.
You would think. I read an article that Norway is asking traveling students to come home because the United States does not have a sufficient healthcare system.
Wow. Well, I mean, there's another thing, Dave, where we don't have to agree on the same facts, right? Because some of those countries, you talk to a lot of people here, and they'll tell you all those countries suck because they have healthcare. They have government-run healthcare. So they
Free
all must
college.
be poor. Yeah, they must be broke because of it. Now it's my understanding that that's not the case. Okay, but I'm sure if you tune into Fox News or ask a Trump supporter, they're going to tell you the exact opposite. And this is why we were talking about media, David, and why we need more media without corporate involvement and just to tell us not opinions. It's not an opinion piece. Straight Walter Cronkite news. Okay?
Thank you.
Because we have to, at some point, we have to come to grips and come together on what are the facts, because we just can't do that.
I could not agree with you more, Tony. I could not agree with you more. There is no such thing as alternative facts. That's called a made-up reality, and that's either never land or a fucking lie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But you don't get to have alternative facts, because the beautiful thing about facts is that they're irrefutable.
It says it in the word.
Right. That's what makes a fact, is that it's irrefutable. But
yeah,
we're living in an era where George Orwell would be rolling over in his grave, Tony, where the language is, and I think this might be a bastardization of a George Orwell quote, but first you steal the language and then you steal the meaning. Something like that. But
I'm not sure.
So but what we're talking about is a perfect example, like extraordinary rendition. It's not torture. No, that's extraordinary rendition. Right? Black site. It's not an illegal fucking jail. No, that's a black site.
A polite euphemism.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
He passed away. You mean he died?
Yeah.
For some reason, yeah, the language kind of like smooths it over. But you talk about Orwell, and there is a quote in there, Dave, that says the government's telling them not to believe their eyes and ears. And Donald Trump said, "Don't believe what you're hearing, and what you're seeing is not what's happening." Does that sound familiar to an Orwell reader? I think it does. I think it does. And Dave, this is why I'm more Democrat. I'm not a Democrat, but I'm more Democrat than I am Republican, because when Kellyanne Conway comes on to Meet the Press with Chuck Todd and said, "Well, they had alternative facts," right? That's her quote. If you're following this party and you hear those things, why doesn't that call into question your loyalty?
Oh,
Why? I
you should be
don't
outraged.
understand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just
Like,
had an epiphany, Tony. The person I was talking about, the Skeletor I was talking about earlier, was Ann Coulter.
oh, Ann Coulter. Because
Coulter.
Kellyanne Conway looks like that too. She looks like the Crypt Keeper a little bit to me.
Yeah, they both do. But Kellyanne Conway is like not quite as like, I don't know. They're fucking neck and neck going for most miserable human. Let's just put it that way.
Well, Ann Coulter has said several things, Dave, where she just sounds like somebody that's in the KKK.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, basically, she was all in on Trump because he was going to build a wall and get rid of Mexicans.
Yeah.
That was big. I mean, she wrote a book, "In Trump We Trust." Now, I did my typical type of reading on this, just so everybody knows. I haven't read all her books, cover to cover. I, read a few chapters here, that kind of thing. That's the way I do it. But in some of her writing, Dave, I mean, it's basically, no, there's just too many Mexicans here.
Tony,
our culture is being stolen by Mexicans.
Tony, we should write a fucking book. If Ann Coulter can write a book, you like history? Do you like research?
I'm not really good at it. That's something I definitely struggled in when I was in college.
I like research.
Yeah.
I like
Very interesting.
I like research more than I like writing.
Well, I'll tell you this though, Dave. She is a very good writer, and she's actually a good talker.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that she's unintelligent, but the conclusions that she comes to
are preposterous.
To me, are ridiculous. If you're going to say this, okay, this immigration thing, and that makes Trump number one for me. That's it? That did? I just, really? Yep. Okay, so Mexicans are the problem. That's our big problem. Too many Mexicans are here.
Well, trying to sell a book.
Freaking read. When I see her talk about it, Andy, when I've heard her talk about it, I haven't heard her talk now in quite a while. Again, like I told you, I'm not watching nearly as much right-wing media as I used to. Okay.
Thank God.
When I hear her talk, she sure sounds like she means it. She doesn't sound to me like somebody who's just trying to sell a book, but you never know. I can't get inside somebody's head, but she really believes this stuff.
Yeah, she might. She might be that special kind of piece of shit. I believe she is.
Well, I mean, let's face it, Dave. I mean, we have white supremacists who really believe that this should be a white man's country, right? It's like, gee, if only we got rid of those people, life would be so much better.
Let's get back to the plague, though. So here we are, middle of the plague, beginning of the plague. Yeah, I just got quarantined today. Not quarantined, but what are they calling it? Shelter in place?
Yeah, shelter in place, exactly.
Don't fucking leave, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Yeah. And I love these little acronyms or whatever these little phrases they throw at us. They don't ever tell you what it means. They just throw it at you, right? Shelter in place,
Well, I mean, shelter.
which means
It's pretty.
like
It's pretty specific. It's pretty specific, though. It means get at home, stay at home, don't come out until we tell you. It's like you've been sent to your room by your parents.
But shelter in place, that means if you're at your friend's house, stay there.
Oh, yeah, I guess it could, huh?
Yeah. It means
Yeah, I guess it could.
it's like curfew. Do not travel. But it's voluntary curfew.
But when I was at work, it said, the shelter in place has been, we've been told to do this, so go home.
Right.
And we'll call you when something changes.
There you go. Voluntary quarantine.
Yeah. Which doesn't, I mean, look, Dave, I don't have any problem with, the president saying, hey, people, no more people traveling from overseas from a hot spot.
Oh, fuck. Shut all the airports down right away.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. But
right away. Shut them all down. I don't care where anybody's going. Nobody flying. Boom.
But then when he makes all these exceptions, and at first it was like everybody in Europe except the UK. Well,
what?
Why is that? And then we want all these people, the Americans, to come back home.
What?
Well, why is that?
Fuck that. No, they got to stay there.
I mean, are we going to test these people before they come in? And you know what? Hey, Dave, it's a good reason for having better borders, right? I have to admit that. That's, you know what? People come across the border even in times when we don't have a situation like this going on. I think it's good to know who's coming in. I totally agree.
Well, I don't think we need to worry about the borders. It's more the airports.
Sure, but I mean, who knows? Wherever it could come from, we never know where the next one's going to break out, right?
Well, it's more than likely going to be somebody flying on a plane. That's how a pandemic starts. It's not going to be some migrant walking through the desert, because how many people are they going to infect, right? Versus some guy, say you got infected, you grabbed your Uber, you infected your Uber driver. Now your Uber driver's infected. He's driving around all day infecting people. Then you go to the airport. But Dave, how many people do you infect there? Then you get on the plane. How many people do you infect there? And then where do those people go? That's how a pandemic starts.
But throughout history, when they've started, Dave, a lot of different times, there wasn't any air travel at all.
There was still travel, though.
But there was still travel. It just gets spread. I mean, when you look at
what I'm saying is shut down the travel.
I totally hear you. But like I would go for what we talked about before. If you want less people coming from the southern border, Dave, you start arresting.
No, I don't even mean that. I just mean all planes within the country, within the country too.
I'm all for it. Look, we got to get a handle on what's going on here. We don't want people bouncing back and forth.
Totally. And the only reason that you would argue against that, Tony, is in favor of big business, right? Because that's gonna lower our fucking our quarterly profits for right. That's the only argument against it, right?
and they're right. It is.
So what?
But it's better than people getting sick.
And so what? Fuck your profit, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully we get to that. Uh-oh.
Oh, Jesus.
Did I tell you I worked in somebody's unit and they're sick?
Yeah, you were telling me that.
So hopefully it doesn't test positive.
Yeah, that would suck.
I'm getting it.
Yeah, Dave, I don't really want to invite you over for dinner now, I got to tell you.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go.
Shelter in place.
If you were Dick Cheney, I'd be like, hey, come on over. I'll make you dinner.
But we just don't know where these things are going to start, Dave. And I think it just shows us, Dave, how we are all interconnected. And we got to work together more. We've got to believe the same facts, Dave. We've got to move we all got to pull on the rope in the same direction at least more of the time.
We're so
You
vulnerable.
know? And we are so vulnerable right now, Dave, and we are so divided as a country. I mean, you've seen it, you've seen it. You've heard it now. These things are happening, and right away, Trump supporters are saying, how come they're blaming Trump? Well, how did Trump get involved in? Why are you defending Trump when nobody was attacking him? This is happening. And I've got some people on Facebook, for instance, defending Trump. Like, well, we weren't attacking Trump. It's like, this is just...
Granted, his reaction has been abysmal. So he has been...
His response has been terrible.
He has been attacked in the press. So they might just be spouting back about that. Right?
But again, Dave, isn't that hyper partisanship? You yourself, just take that particular Trump supporter. You're hearing the things he's saying. You're seeing how the administration has responded to that. Are you really going to be that biased and tell me this is good? Seriously, you're going to give him high marks for the way he's done this? Yeah. I mean, how partisan can you freaking get? Again, Dave, if Obama had handled it like this and we were in this situation under him, I would not defend him. But see, then again, Dave, I'm not on a team.
Right.
I'm not on a team. If Bernie Sanders, and I love Bernie, but if he responded like this, if he was handling the situation like this, I would not be making excuses for him. I would say, you know what? There's a lot of things now in the column for not voting for Bernie. This has been a terrible response. Bernie, every time you say something, it gets contradicted by people in your own administration, by experts.
Same, but that's not the case. Bernie comes out with this really well done, really tasteful, public address, and he is the epitome of a leader. Like, wow, thank you. I felt better after watching it.
Well, we talk about fact checkers, Dave. That fact checker, Politico, the guy from the Toronto Star, he's been all over, cable news and other things. Dennis, I forget. Anyway, and he and people from Politico fact checking it. Bernie Sanders has a wonderful reputation. And for the folks out there, if you're listening and you're a Trump supporter, this is not fake news. Your guy has a real problem with the truth, and we are in a terrible situation here in a pandemic, and he's not telling the truth. How can you be okay with that?
I don't get it.
Doesn't make sense, Dave.
Don't get it.
Don't get it at all. Just, it's like you love the guy so much. It's like your kid, Dave, and he comes home with bad grades, and you just can't believe that it's him. It must be the teacher. Must be the teacher spreading fake news about your kid who failed his spelling.
That's a good analogy.
Test.
Great analogy.
Just can't get over it. I'm sorry. Your kid just shit his pants.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No, it was your kid. He does have shit in his pants, and please do come pick him up. Sooner the better.
I tell you, I got this new route at work. There's a couple of stops, couple of pickups for my noon run, and the people taking him out, one kid out from school, and they're like, "I'm sorry, we're late. I'm really sorry." I'm like, "Oh, okay, don't worry about it." It's like, well, see, what happened is Johnny had an accident. We got him cleaned up. And I'm like, don't apologize. Thank you for doing that, because I don't want to be driving this kid around when he's got a load in his pants.
No, God, no, that would be horrible.
I don't know why they were apologizing to me. It was like, I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank them.
Apologizing for keeping you waiting for a couple minutes or whatever. But yeah, no, on the bigger picture, thank you so much.
Under the circumstances, let me give you some money. Here's $10. Thank you.
Right.
I owe you lunch.
Exactly.
Well, oh. Anyway, David, I think I'm going to let you go here, pal.
Right on, buddy.
Appreciate the
Well,
opportunity. Another podcast.
another great conversation with the Tony Schultz on And
All
Another
right, buddy.
Thing with Dave.
Stay safe.
Take care and yep, stay safe and isolate.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, tuning in. Love your support. Keeps me motivated to keep producing more episodes. So please let me know what you think in the comments. Feel free to leave me messages. If you're on Anchor, you can chime in and leave a 1-minute voice message, and I can add that to the episode. We're also on a number of new outlets now. iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, on and on and on. So anywhere you get your podcast, you can probably find And Another Thing with Dave. I would also be interested in hearing any topics you would like to hear on future episodes. So peace out. Keep fighting, people.